Beyond Meat earnings, what is going on, guys? Welcome back into this video. Welcome into this Saturday video. Hope you guys had a great week. Hope you guys haven't done any panic selling or anything along those lines. Now, I know we're skipping over the stock analysis video again for the second time in a row. We should be back to that next week, but I really thought this earnings was important to cover because this is a stock in Beyond Meat that I've talked about several times on the channel, and I thought it was just important for me to do my research and go over it and over the earnings, that is, and kind of give my two thoughts and my 2 cents on what I think this means for the company. So I really hope you guys enjoy this. I really hope you guys get some value out of this. I hope that this hopefully teaches you guys that it's very important to keep up to date with the companies you own, because if you're not, you might miss some really huge news, and if the stock dips, you might miss a very good buying opportunity and you could very well regret it. Or vice versa. Maybe if the stock goes up a little bit and you get some bad news, you might be thinking everything's great, nothing can go wrong, but instead you don't sell out of it or you don't take advantage or whatever the case may be. That stock actually goes down, you lose some money. So it's very important to stay up to date here, review the investor presentations, listen to the conference calls, all those things. Google searches, I do those a few times a week for all the companies I own. I think that's very important. But if you guys do get some value out of this, please drop a like on the video. That would really help me out in a massive way, and it would really help the channel grow and push this video out to a whole new audience and maybe influence some people, help some people who are thinking about investing in Beyond Meat after they do their own research, that is, because I'm just a random guy on the internet. So if you do get some value, please drop a like on the video. Also, if this is your first time watching the video, welcome to the channel. Please consider subscribing to the channel and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. So to start off here, let's take a look at the press release, just going over the fourth quarter financial highlights. Then we'll move into the full year highlights of 2020, and then we'll kind of get into the other things to wrap up the video. So as for what analysts expected, they expected to see a loss of 13 cents per share compared to what actually came in at a loss of 34 cents per share. As for revenue, analysts expected to see 103.2 million compared to 101.9 million that was actually brought in. But that 101.9 million was actually an increase of 3.5% year over year from the fourth quarter of 2019. Gross profit was 25.4 million with gross margins of 24.9 million of net revenues. Adjusted gross profit was 29.1 million, or adjusted gross margin of 28.5%. Their net loss was 25.1 million, or 40 cents per common share. But their adjusted net loss, which is what we just talked about, was a loss of 34 cents per share, or a net loss of 21.4 million. Adjusted EBITDA was 9.5 million, or negative 9.3% of net revenues. Now, other things we saw, and these are important, I want to go over these, and I really wanted to touch upon these. Other things we saw in this earnings report for the fourth quarter included U.S. grocery revenues climbing 76% and U.S. food service revenues going down 42.6%. Now, this is important here for a lot of reasons, because analysts could very well take some of these numbers, like the food service loss of 42.6%, and run with it and completely spin it in a way that just doesn't make any sense, and you might even think very bearish on the company after doing your full research and having a very bullish outlook. So it's very important to make sure you're listening to these conference calls very, very intensely, okay? Very intensely. Because of that reason, if you're not listening intensely, it could be very easy to get caught up in all the BS and simply just wipe away a great opportunity. I've done it. Trust me. It's not a great feeling when your bullish thesis plays out and you did not stay in that stock and you stay on the sideline. That's why I always preach, take everything you hear from everyone else, analysts, friends, everyone, with a complete grain of salt. But if you're newer to the market, that's why you need to listen to these conference calls intensely, especially if you're newer to the market, to build that habit and get into that habit. Now, if you are new to the market, I personally think it's a good idea to, one, listen to a conference call twice. I think that's never a bad idea. I think everyone can benefit from listening to a conference call twice, because sometimes your mind just might go a completely different direction. You might zone out for 2 or 3 minutes and you might miss the most important part of the conference call. It's very, very possible. So I think listening to these conference calls more than once, everyone can benefit from. On top of that, consider maybe listening to half the conference call, pausing it, taking a break, go do something else, maybe watch TV, go for a walk, take a break, give your mind a break, come back to it, and listen to the second half. Sometimes I do that. Sometimes I'll listen to the financial highlights, I'll listen to the CEO, the CFO, COO talk, who's ever talking, I'll listen to them talk, pause it, come back a little bit later, maybe 30 minutes, an hour later, and I'll listen to the Q&A section. And I find by doing that, I don't get as, mentally fatigued so quickly, because I do try to listen to these very, very intensely. And, especially if I'm with someone or, I don't know, my mind gets lost sometimes, okay? That's the bottom line. So by breaking it up, it's just gonna be easier for you to listen intensely to the entire message that's going on in the conference call. But anyway, whole point of this rant, food service did not do very well for Beyond Meat this quarter, and really this whole year, actually. And especially did not do well overseas. overseas. And you can see this, by the way, in the earnings report. Their international revenue actually fell this quarter by 16.5%. Now, you might be wondering why overseas was worse. Well, remember, overseas, like I can't remember exactly where, but like London, France, like Europe, all these other places, they shut down. They went into another lockdown. Here in the United States, I know there was a couple of states, I believe. I can't remember exactly how many off the top of my head. If you guys know, please feel free to let me know down in the comments how many states actually went back into lockdown. But very few states actually went back into full lockdown mode for an extended period of time. I was reading in Europe, they were shut down for, I believe, like over a month or something like that. Obviously, that's going to hurt Beyond Meat and their sales. But even here, like say in Rhode Island, for example, the states that did shut down, I don't know how it was in other states, but Rhode Island shut down for 3 weeks, okay? Shut down. We called it a pause. We didn't call it a lockdown or a shutdown or anything like that. We just called it a pause. But even with that, restaurants were still open at very, very limited capacity. You could still go do things. It wasn't like the traditional lockdown that we saw earlier in 2020. Anyway, the whole point I'm trying to make here, those numbers, those food service numbers look a lot worse than they actually are, because obviously this pandemic's going to pass. Overseas in Europe, Asia, Australia, all those other countries, all those other places beyond us, those are going to come back. I have full faith those are going to come back probably the back half of 2021 and into 2022. And all these analysts, they're very, very concerned on the conference call. Well, when do you see food service coming back? When do you think that's going to happen? What are the numbers looking like for this year? And first of all, Karen, listen, no one has that answer. Ethan Brown does not have that answer right now when everything is going to go back to normal, because if you did, you would have so much money. You really would have so much money, because you'd probably be the smartest person on the planet. Now, you can make an educated guess when things are going to go back to normal, especially if you pay attention to the virus cases, the vaccines being distributed. You take all that, you do all the math. You can make a very educated guess on when things are going to go back to normal. But if you're looking for a specific quarter or a specific date, no one really has that answer. No one does. No one at all. You don't know if it's going to be next quarter, the quarter after. I mean, I don't think it's going to be that soon, but you don't know if it's going to be this time next year. You truly don't know when everything's going to go back to normal, and you're going to say, okay, sporting events, concerts, full capacity, all those things. You don't know when that's going to happen. I would not want to put a date on that. I am not a betting man, but I would not want to put a date on that, that's for sure. And secondly, this also hurt Beyond Meat because of this, because they did not issue any guidance for 2021. Now, I think that was very smart, because it's going to be very hard to give any sort of guidance with the situation that the world is right now, because they're just that awkward, in between, we're moving towards, back to normal, but we're not there yet, and we don't know when we're going to get there. It's just too difficult, especially for an industry like this. It's just too difficult to predict off the top of your head, or even when you run the numbers, it's just way too hard to predict. So I think that was smart. But I want to turn your attention to this. U.S. grocery store sales, like we talked about before, climbed 76% in this quarter. And Ethan Brown also said in the conference call they're noticing more and more households buying these products in bigger quantities. That is an important point. So what do you think is going to happen with this food service industry once everything goes back to normal? What do you think is going to happen? You see the trends, you see the writing on the wall. You see more and more people buying plant-based meats, more and more households buying plant-based meats, more households buying in bigger quantities. You can see it, the writing's on the wall. Once the food service industry is full force, you can go to a restaurant, you can pack the doors. I really believe you're going to see more and more people ordering plant-based meats. I truly believe that, especially with these new Beyond Burgers being rolled out in the spring of this year, one having 55% less saturated fat than a traditional 80-20 beef patty, and the other containing 35% less saturated fat. And on top of that, Ethan Brown said at the very beginning of the conference call, and this is obviously probably common knowledge, I probably don't need to say this, but hey, if you need me to say it, I'll say it. He said one of his main priorities, one of his top goals, is to get the price of these products to compete with regular meat. And if he gets that to compete, never mind if he gets it to compete with regular meat, if he gets it below regular meat, guys, that's it. That's a wrap. Kneel down, game's over. And I truly believe he's going to do it. I truly believe. Like I told you in the past, he legitimately makes me want to become a vegan. He is so passionate about this. I have full faith in him. All systems go. I truly believe he's going to do it. Now, in addition, talking about the 2020 full year results very quickly. This included $406.8 million in net revenues, up 36.6% year over year. This is fantastic to see. I personally thought they were going to do maybe a little less or a little more than $400 million in revenue. So I was extremely happy to see this, and I was extremely happy to see them execute during a pandemic, no less. Gross profit was $122.3 million, or gross margin of 30.1%. Adjusted gross profit was $133 $33.7 million, or adjusted gross margin of 32.9%. Net loss was $52.8 million, or 85 cents per share, and adjusted net loss was $37.1 million, or 60 cents per share. Now, if you're concerned about these numbers and you're really thinking about panic selling or selling off, you're concerned about the net loss, you're concerned about the loss per share, you're concerned about the 40+% loss in the food service industry, there's a couple of things I really just want to bring to your attention just to give you a more informed decision, and maybe it'll spin you to think about it a different way. One, 2020 was just a weird year. I feel like it's very hard to just look at 2020, look at a company's numbers from 2020, and decide whether that company is worth investing in. Some benefited, like Zoom, a lot of retail stores, they probably didn't do so well, okay, at the end of the day. But one thing I do think 2020 was able to display, and one thing I think we can all benefit from 2020 when looking at different companies, 2020 definitely separated the great management teams from the management teams, because the great ones, they found a way to increase those top lines or to stay afloat. Those maybe they didn't, maybe they did, maybe they squeaked by, but you can tell by the way they're innovating and what they did to those companies. Second, look at what analysts have projected for them next year. Look at this. First off, on an EPS basis, analysts project Beyond Meat to be profitable again in 2021. They're projected to be profitable again in 2021. In fact, they're projected to be profitable as soon as next quarter. Never mind this year, next quarter. On top of that, this is the company that lost 90% of their revenue and is projected to grow revenue 50% this upcoming year. No, they're not like that at all. This company grew top line last year, and they're projected to grow almost 50% again this upcoming year, again. And that's not it. On top of that, they're projected to grow almost 50% again in 2022. And at the end of the day, as you're seeing Beyond Meat grow in some great ways. They're growing net revenues, they're growing total distribution, brand awareness, as well as taking more control of the market share. And in my opinion, that are some of the most important things that you can see. Obviously, velocity growth was down, but you know what? Something tells me that's gonna come back in 2021 and 2022, but you know what? I digress. Now, to wrap up this video, we're gonna talk about something a lot of people, a lot of shareholders of Beyond Meat are talking about. I'm sure you guys have an idea what I'm about to bring up, but yes, it's the McDonald's deal. We're just gonna recap this very quickly. I'm not gonna go too into depth on this, but to be clear, this is not advertised as the Beyond Burger in McDonald's just yet, but it is a 3-year deal that allows Beyond to be the preferred patty supplier for the McPlant Burger. Now, in regards to anything else, there's not too much more that's made public on this McDonald's deal yet, because Ethan Brown did say on the conference call that he couldn't disclose too much. So whatever that is, maybe there's some kinks being worked out, whatever the case may be, but I am very excited for this deal. I think this is great for the company. Obviously, as a long-term shareholder, I really would like to see Beyond Meat be advertised, but that's not the case just yet. Hopefully it will be one day. I think it's possible, but we'll just have to wait and see, because McDonald's does have great branding. It's honestly one of the best in the world, and that would just be huge for Beyond Meat. But before we end this video, let me leave you with this final thought. So, Beyond is the leader in plant-based meats. They are the leader. They are the leader in this growing industry with this massive TAM opportunity. They have deals with now McDonald's and Yum. They announced that on the conference call too. I didn't talk about that, but they did announce a deal with Yum, KFC. They have a trial run with Taco Bell. Never mind if they're actually in Taco Bell for forever and ever. And they have a deal with Pizza Hut. Hope you guys enjoyed this video. Hope you enjoyed me covering these earnings. I hope you guys got some value out of it. If you did, please drop a like on the video. That would really help out my channel in a massive way. And I appreciate every single one of you that have stuck around to this point, every single one of you that do help me out by dropping a like on the video. Also, if this is the first video you've seen, I am going to be doing more videos like this. So please feel free to subscribe and turn on that notification bell so you don't miss any future uploads. Let me know down in the comments what you think of Beyond Meat, if this is going to make you sell off these earnings, if you want to buy more, whatever the case may be. I would love to hear from you guys down in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video.